In today's video, we're talking about this right here, budget cinema cameras and what to look for. Let's get into it.
Here are the things that your camera must have a checklist on. This is my little, in my opinion, that's the asterisk coming up there. But these are the things that I look for so I can get the best final result and best image out of my camera. So my budget cinema camera of choice is the Lumix S5 paired with the Atomos Ninja 5. This combo right here with a few other accessories is just chef's kiss. Here are the things that this camera has, and these are the things that you should consider in any of the cameras that you're purchasing in the budget cinema line. So let's start going through some of those items. Number one is dynamic range. A dynamic range generally means is like how evenly balanced the shot looks. Can you lift the shadows and bring the highlights down so you get this really aesthetic, pleasing image to the eye? In this case, the Lumix S5 can shoot raw when you pair it with the Atomos Ninja 5, which gives it 14 stops of dynamic range, which means that when you're generally shooting an image outside, let's use the sky as an example, usually the sky gets blown out, but when you start to pull the highlights back and reveal more of the detail in the sky, that's when you start to really realize the potential of dynamic range and getting that cinema look. Next thing that you want to make sure that your camera has is really high bit rates and a really strong color profile. So what I mean by this is you want to look for something like 422 10-bit color. The reason why this is so important is because it gives you more latitude and flexibility in post-production when you're doing color grading. So for example, with this camera here, if I bring that into post-production, I can push that image so hard without it falling apart. And what falling apart looks like, generally if you're recording on 8-bit 420, you'll start to notice like the black start to pixelate a lot. It starts to look a lot grungier and messier. All these artifacts get introduced into your final image that are generally distracting to the storytelling process. So part of the things that you want to look for is 10-bit 422 color or higher. But if I want to get 12-bit color for a higher end project, I can actually get that over HDMI when I pair that with the Blackmagic Video Assist 12G HDR, so I can really push that color grade to its limits. The next thing that you're going to want to consider is what is the log profile like to work with. Not all log profiles are built the same. I am telling you this right now. Every single camera manufacturer has a different log profile. No shade on Sony, but for a long time, I did not know how to color grade S-Log footage. I had to buy separate courses just to learn all these different techniques to get a final image that I was happy with. This is where the Lumix came in, and why we choose this camera for all of our high-end color grading work is because the V-Log color profile is just so easy to work with. It's super flat. It gives you the most latitude. By the time you throw a Rec 709 on it, it already looks good straight out of camera, and then once you start putting color grades on top of it, it looks amazing. I just find like the colors are super rich. You got silky contrast, and it's just very flexible and easy to get a final look that you're happy with. So when all of these things work in combination, we're talking dynamic range, 422 10-bit color, log profiles, you're really getting to the core of the things that you should be considering when you're purchasing a budget cinema camera. The next really big factor that you're going to want to look at when purchasing a camera is, does the camera have IBIS or image stabilization built into the camera? Now this is something that I personally look for when I'm buying a camera, because most cinema cameras actually come with zero built-in image stabilization, and you actually have to crutch on other filmmaking gear in order to get a smooth or stabilized shot. Now this is a bit of an area of contention for a lot of people, because some people will say they really like the natural look of a cinema camera. I personally think it looks like micro jitters, and it's very shaky if you don't have the right equipment to support it. So I live in the world of like guerrilla filmmaking, where I would much rather have levels of stabilization to pick from in order to get the shots that I want. The reason why I like the Lumix S5 specifically is because it has those levels of built-in image stabilization. You even have one called Boost Image Stabilization, where if I need to get a shot that looks similar to a tripod, I could get that in a pinch if I actually needed it. Right out of the box, when you pull this camera, it just gives you the most natural, floaty cinema feel. I just think this is something that's important in order to tell stories properly. This next tip isn't essential, but it's something that I look for when purchasing a camera. You want to see if the camera comes with some cinematography features. I'm talking about histogram. I'm talking about luminance waveforms. I'm talking talking about luminance spot metering and or having things like time code. Are these features available in the camera so it makes your job easier to expose your shot and make the post-production process easier? But that is the reason why we use this setup here. It hits all the marks that we talked about in this video. I love the Lumix S5, especially when it's paired with the Atomos Ninja 5. It is just a great setup. You get a great final image. It's stabilized. It's so easy to work with in post-production. There's lots of other cameras out there that you can consider, but if you want to learn more about this exact setup, I will leave a link in the description below. If you guys like this video, please press like. It actually makes a difference. And if you want to learn about OpenGate, I will leave a video right over this car right here. You can click on it and it will teach you more about learning how to export and shoot in the 4:3 format, which is something that we do on a regular basis now.